Open a book and look inside. You might find a great surprise. You can travel to distant lands, all in the palm of your hands. Stories with Mrs. Hansen. Stories with Mrs. Hansen. Stories with Mrs. Hansen. Stories with Mrs. Hansen. You can join pirates on the sea. Travel through history. You can learn to do anything, even how to sing. Stories with Mrs. Hansen. Stories with Mrs. Hansen. Stories with Mrs. Hansen. Stories with Mrs. Hansen. Open up.
Oh, hello. I was just writing my name for a nameplate for my desk. Sometimes it's really hard to find things that have my name spelt on them correctly, and I don't know if that's happened to you, but sometimes it can be really frustrating. So today we're going to talk about books that have our names in them or have something that we can relate to with the characters. So I'm going to share today one of my favorite stories from when I was a child. It's called Stephanie's Ponytail by Robert Munsch, and the art is by Michael Marchenko. So the reason I really liked this story when I was a kid was because it was the first book that had a character with my name in it, even though the name spelled a little bit different. And to me that was important because it was the first time I could see myself in a story. So sometimes it's really hard to connect with a character if we don't see something that we have in common with them. So as you listen to the story, think about, do you have something in common with this character? And then we'll talk about it at the end. Let's get started. Stephanie's Ponytail. Story by Robert Munsch, art by Michael Marchenko. One day, Stephanie went to her mom and said, "None of the kids in my class have a ponytail. I want a nice ponytail coming right out the back." So Stephanie's mom gave her a nice ponytail coming right out the back. When Stephanie went to school, the other kids looked at her and said, "Ugly, ugly, very ugly." Stephanie said, "It's my ponytail, and I like it." The next morning, when Stephanie went to school, all the other girls had ponytails coming out the back. Stephanie looked at them and said, "You are all a bunch of copycats. You just do whatever I do. You don't have a brain in your heads." The next morning, Mom said, "Stephanie, would you like a ponytail coming out the back?" Stephanie said, "No." "Then that's that," said her mom. "That's the only place you can do ponytails." "No, it's not," said Stephanie. "I want one coming out just above my ear." "Very strange," said the mom. "Are you sure that's what you want?" "Yes," said Stephanie. So her mom gave Stephanie a nice ponytail coming out right above her ear. When she went to school, the other kids saw her and said, "Ugly, ugly, very ugly." Stephanie said, "It's my ponytail and I like it." The next morning, when Stephanie came to school, all the girls and even some of the boys had nice ponytails coming out just above their ears. The next morning, the mom said, "Stephanie, would you like a ponytail coming out the back?" Stephanie said, "No." "Would you like one coming out the side?" "No." "Then that's that," said her mom. "There is no other place you can do ponytails." "Yes, there is," said Stephanie. "I want one coming out the top of my head like a tree." "That's very strange," said her mom. "Are you sure that's what you want?" "Yes," said Stephanie. So her mom gave Stephanie a nice ponytail coming out the top of her head like a tree. When Stephanie went to school, the other kids saw her and said, "Ugly, ugly, very ugly." Stephanie said, "It's my ponytail and I like it." The next day, all the girls and all of the boys had ponytails coming out the top. It looked like broccoli was growing out of their heads. The next morning, the mom said, "Stephanie, would you like a ponytail coming out the back?" Stephanie said, "No." Would you like one coming out the side? No. Would you like one coming out the top? No. Then that is definitely that, said the mom. There is no other place you can do ponytails. Yes, there is, said Stephanie. I want one coming out the front and hanging down in front of my nose. But nobody will know if you are coming or going, her mom said. Are you sure that's what you want? Yes, said Stephanie. So her mom gave Stephanie a nice ponytail coming out the front. On the way to school, she bumped into 4 trees, 3 cars, 2 houses, and 1 principal. When she finally got to her class, the other kids saw her and said, "Ugly, ugly, very ugly." Stephanie said, "It's my ponytail and I like it." The next day, all the girls and all of the boys and even the teacher had ponytails coming out the front and hanging down in front of their noses. None of them could see where they were going. They bumped into the desks and they bumped into each other. They bumped into the walls, and by mistake, 3 girls went into the boys' bathroom. Stephanie yelled, "You are a bunch of brainless copycats. You just do whatever I do. When I come tomorrow, I am going to have shaved my head." Do you think she's really going to shave her head? Let's find out. The first person to come the next day was the teacher. She had shaved her head and she was bald. The next to come were the boys. They had shaved their heads and they were bald. The next to come were the girls. They had shaved their heads and they were bald. The last person to come was Stephanie, and she had a nice little ponytail coming right out the back. The end. Wow, what another great story. What I really like about this story is that there is a great lesson we can talk about. In the story, Stephanie gets made fun of for the way that she's wearing her hair. Have you ever been made fun of for the way that you looked? Maybe it was the way you wore your hair or the way you dressed. I know I have, and it really hurt my feelings. How did you respond when that happened to you? Did you change the way you looked? Or did you embrace it and say, no, this is me, this is who I am, and I'm not gonna let someone make fun of me for being myself? If it happens again, think about how can you embrace being yourself. I have another challenge for you too. If you have seen a book that has your name in it, like Miss Hansen sees a book that has her name in it, I want you to share it with me. Share what's your favorite part of the book. How do you connect to the character? And if you don't see a book that you can connect with a character, maybe you can't find books that have your language in it, or the holidays that you celebrate, or somebody that looks like you, then maybe it's your turn to write that story, because you belong in books too. So if you can't find a book that has characters that look like you, that just means there needs to be more. And I'm going to challenge you to be writers, because good readers are good writers. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Stories with Mrs. Hansen, and I can't wait to hear about all the awesome books you find. See you next time.
Open a book and look inside. You might find a great surprise. You can travel to distant lands.